Welcome. This was what I used to pull you out of Yahweh's simulation. Before I had access to this array, if I wanted to get someone out, I had to sneak into the city and patch in manually.
How the hell did you manage that?
Well, I didn't really manage it very well. Yahweh caught on, and I barely managed to get out alive. Throughout my excursions into the city, what was most troubling was that I didn't see any people there. There should be tens of millions of people there, but there's no one.
What happened to them?
It seems that the fate of your world is becoming the fate of mine.
What do you mean?
I'll show you, if you don't mind a quick trip home.
So this is what happened to Earth, huh? Whoa. Where is this?
This is New York, or at least what's left of it.
So what did happen here?
Yahweh happened. Armageddon.
Where is everyone? Up in heaven?
That's one way to put it. For years, I didn't see what was going on. When I spoke to Joshua, he seemed so different than Yahweh, dangerously different. Only after this fall happened did I finally realize that Joshua was trying to warn us.
Who's Joshua?
Joshua in Hebrew is Yeshua, and from Greek to English transliteration, Jesus.
You knew Jesus.
I knew the real Jesus, yes, who was somewhat different than the version you read about in the Bible.
How so?
Well, there were all sorts of Jewish preachers on the fringe whose teachings were attributed to Jesus. The version of Jesus you read about in the Bible is more of an amalgamation of various teachers. They were the critics of religion in their time, and it was a very unforgiving time. Not until the rise of the United States and freedom of religion and speech could critics of religion flourish like never before. Throughout most of history, unorthodox preachers like Jesus were tortured and killed as atheists.
So, what was Jesus trying to warn us about?
I'll show you. Here is Joshua, the person who could most closely be called the real Jesus. Many things he never said were attributed to him in the Bible, but some things he really did say. They weren't said to huge crowds on a shore while he sat in a boat, as it says in the Bible. Nor were these things preached from a mountainside. No, they were said quietly and in secret. Like here, by this fire.
Huh. Well, what did he say?
Parables, coded language, what I know now to be a warning. Listen carefully. The parable of the net. Once again, The kingdom of heaven is like a net that was let down into the lake and caught all kinds of fish. When it was full, the fishermen pulled it up on the shore. They sat down and collected the good fish in baskets, but threw the bad away. This is how it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come down and separate the wicked from the righteous, and throw them into the blazing furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. That's recorded in Matthew chapter 13.
He's warning people about hell, right?
That's what I thought at first as well. But I think he was speaking to me directly, trying to tell me something else.
What?
Adam, think about it. Jesus reiterated his warning in the parable of the weeds. He told us of a farmer whose enemies planted weeds in his field of wheat. The farmer allowed the weeds to grow so that the wheat would not be pulled up with them. But during the harvest, the farmer had his servants pull up all the weeds first and burn them. Then he had them harvest the wheat and store it in his barn. This was supposedly his analogy for heaven, the servants, like angels, separating the wicked from the righteous, burned the wicked and brought the righteous into heaven. Later, Jesus gave the warning a third time in the parable of the shepherd. He never actually called himself the shepherd, though it says differently in the Bible. The people are the sheep, you see, and he tells of how the hired hands run when a wolf attacks the flock and scatters it, but the shepherd, who has more of a vested interest in the sheep, stays to protect them from the wolf and see them safely to the farm.
And you don't think he was warning people about the devil and hell and being led away from God?
No. I think that's what he wanted Yahweh to see, a red herring. But I think he was trying to tell me something else entirely. But I failed to realize.
What? What was he trying to tell you?
He was trying to tell me that indeed the fishermen separate the good fish from the bad. But what happens to the good fish regardless? They too go into a fire for cooking. Indeed, the workers separate the weeds from the wheat, but what happens to the wheat? It goes into the oven and into a belly. Indeed, the shepherd protects the sheep from the wolf. But when the wolf attacks, most of the sheep actually survive. On the other hand, what happens to the sheep if they actually make it to the farm? They're sheared for their wool and slaughtered for their meat. Not like what a wolf would naturally do, snatching up one or two, but instead systematically and thoroughly using them as a resource. No escape. Each case has a common theme. The fish would be better off if never caught. The wheat would be better off if never harvested. And the sheep would be better off to escape from the shepherd and take their chances with the wolf. We are now in my copy of Yahweh's simulation. of your very world. And this is as far as it goes. Remember when I told you that you are how Yahweh is graded?
Yeah?
Everyone that lived in Yahweh's simulation is saved in a file, and their condition is used as a justification for Yahweh's score. Well, their data takes up space. As a student, Yahweh could not just delete all those people, or that could be a way of cheating. He needed 2 sets of permission to gain access to them, one from the school and one from the people themselves. Once he took over the school's computers, he no longer needed the school's permission, but he still needed permission from the people themselves.
He needed their permission to delete them?
He needed their permission to gain control of their data. The Bible was essentially an end-user license agreement. You remember those video games you used to play with your daughter? Before you could install one, you had to accept their EULA.
Right. That endless text you just scroll through and then click accept at the end?
Exactly. The Bible is supposed to explain the condition of your eternal soul to you. But most people concerned themselves with television shows and internet drama. They didn't think about the implications of God's offer. They just scrolled through and clicked accept, a formality they could forget and go about their play. It's ironically Faustian. There are viruses that won't install on your computer until you give them permission first. That was Yahweh's predicament. There were even people who studied the Bible line for line, and they still accepted Yahweh's offer, knowing nothing about heaven, but merely being sold on the word of the salesman alone. They just wanted to play the game. So they gave Yahweh permission. They clicked accept.
So, what happened to the people who gave Yahweh control of their data? Did he delete them?
Yes, they became a part of Yahweh by being deleted and overwritten with Yahweh himself. Yahweh needed more space on the hard drives. It's as simple as that. They're gone forever.
My daughter.
Don't worry, she wasn't a believer. Theoretically, she should still be safe and sound on the hard drives. But she needs you, Adam. Now, the real world is starting to look an awful lot like the end of Yahweh's simulation, and I'm left wondering what happened to all the real people out there. Adam, your time has come. I need you to get into that city and shut Yahweh down once and for all. I am approaching my 10th year on YouTube. There have been many highs and lows during that time, but in the end, I did not expect my channel to grow this large. I must come to terms with the fact that the platform I have spent thousands of hours building could be lost to an uncertain future. So, while I'm still here, I want to secure the future of my message for generations to come. Since we don't know how long my channel or even YouTube will exist, I must expand to places that have stood the test of time. The first step in this endeavor is to turn Power Corrupts into a book. I'm currently writing a full-length Power Corrupts novel. I think it will naturally be superior to the animated series, as writing allows me to better develop characters and explore themes that would be too difficult for me to animate. I'd like to involve my patrons by providing updates and at least a digital copy when it's finally done. For my larger contributors, I'd like to thank them, with their permission, by listing them at the end of the book, for their funding helped make it possible. Hopefully, this will be a way of securing the Dark Matter legacy no matter what happens to my channel or to YouTube. Thank you.